Welcome to Entrepreneurs, Executives, and Eccentrics, a podcast dedicated to the stories, strategies, and secrets of remarkable individuals. Join us as we engage in enlightening conversations with intriguing entrepreneurs, accomplished executives, and fascinating eccentrics, exploring their journeys, triumphs, and the unconventional wisdom that has shaped their success. In this episode, we talk with Erin Holowach, entrepreneur and founder of ComFree, a company reshaping how homes are bought and sold without traditional commissions. Erin talks about how she went from flipping houses to questioning the way the real estate industry works. We explore how real estate fees ballooned over time, why the system resists change, and what it looks like when buyers and sellers take back control of the process.
Hello, Erin. Tell me who you are and what you do.
Hi, I am Erin Holowach, and I would say, an entrepreneur that's just desired to change the real estate industry. I've been in the real estate business for 22 years and fully supporting how to change real estate commissions and making the whole process of buying and selling houses easier, simpler, and without a middleman. So I started it in 2001, really out of a need. Just to give you a bit of background, at that time, just coming out of university, had a commerce degree, no debt. Grateful to my parents that I had no student debt, but also no money. And where it began is, let's flip a house and maybe we can make $15,000, $20,000, $25,000. I speak of we often. My husband and I are high school sweethearts. And
The royal we, yes. The we believe, right? Yes.
So I say the word we because we've been married and in business for over 25 years together. So we've been doing this together for a long time. So if you hear me speak of we, that's the two of us that have done it together. And it's just a term I use, but I've been the active owner, founder, entrepreneur right from the get-go. Came out of university, no debt, gonna go flip a house. That sounds great. I'm gonna peel back cat-infested carpet. I'm gonna learn to reshingle a roof. I'm going to tile a bathroom floor. And that all sounds great. We bought the house at the time in 2001 for $100,000, put in $10,000 and said we were going to go sell it for $125,000. And at that time, 21 years old, I learned what real estate commissions were and had never really, knew that there was real estate agents, knew that you somehow paid commission or something of the sort, and learned that of the maybe $15,000 to $20,000 I might make on selling this house to go fund a future startup, more than half of it was going to go to a real estate agent just for showing my house and putting a sign in the lawn. And so I go back to some of the ways my husband and I made some money through university as we bought and sold some cars. You'd buy a Honda Prelude for $8,000, polish up the rims, put a spoiler on it and sell it for $10,000. You've all heard of it was the Auto Trader, the Bargain Finder, and this is many years before the Kijijis and the Craigslist and the Facebook marketplaces, but there was always classifieds where you could list places for sale. And I was like,
Wait. So you were always, okay. So it sounds like, I know from a very young age though, you had seen, you were like, okay, well, this asset has some value, and if it could simply just be spiffed up a bit and made whole or new again, I can sell it kind of a larger, where did this come from? Are your parents like this? Like, because this sounds like something you've been kind of embedded in for a while.
no, I wouldn't necessarily say that. I grew up on a farm, a large grain farm, and probably more than anything, it's that I didn't want to work for the man and I didn't really like working for minimum wage. So I think it more came from that entrepreneurial spirit that said, hey, there's different ways that you can make money, and $5.25 at, the local restaurant or local car wash or gas station wasn't how I was going to do it. So I guess where it does come from my parents is they're also very entrepreneurial. It's like, find your way, find a good opportunity. And so we were just looking for the fastest way to make some decent money and in a fair and honest way.
So, okay, so let's talk about how this real estate game came to be, right? Now, I don't mean your solution so much as, let's talk about where this started. So let's call it 80 to 100 years. Whenever the real estate, we need a realtor, right? They would, to your point, I think we were talking earlier, and you were saying how, they would have a stack of listings, and it was work, and you had to travel miles, and there was all those things. So how was it done then? And I can kind of describe how we got to today, basically.
Absolutely. So the real estate industry is over 100 years old, 120 years old. And two words you'll hear in the real estate industry is the word listing and the word board. How that came to be is well ahead of, printed newspapers and certainly well ahead of the World Wide Web. Is people would put a listing up with a real estate agent and they would use two thumbtacks to put it on the board to indicate to their local community that a property was for sale. Move along a few decades. The next was you'd print out a listing, which meant you printed the houses for sale and you stapled them together. Or if you were a fancy real estate agent, you would put them in a little collated book and you deliver them to other real estate agents and other local communities or places that might be looking for houses. So that's how it was done, up until the 50s, 60s, 70s. And so it was all about you needed someone to connect you. How else would people be aware that your house was for sale? How else would you be able to search for something you were looking for? So you had a real estate agent that did just that. And so when the real estate agent, like I said, they would come and walk you over to the board and say, I know a place that's for sale. What's changed, and when we got into the industry, is just the age of information. There's much more information available. But what hasn't changed is the need for real estate commissions. The other important piece is back then properties were maybe worth $20,000, $30,000. So when you looked at paying, 1% of a $30,000 house, we're paying $300 to a real estate agent in commissions. And this commission structure has only ballooned since then, and disproportionately in the sense of what a real estate agent can make compared to as property values go up. And so I don't know about what other industries you might be involved in, but when the housing market goes up by 25% due to other macroeconomic conditions, it's quite unlikely that your salary went up 25% in that exact same time period.
I never thought of it that way. So let's pretend it's $100,000, right? Like, okay, well, here's your $1,500. And then now it's $200,000. Here's your $3,000. It's $1 million.
Here's $1 million. And
so the $1 million. And now, you're saying, and where you're at, the what's the commission on $1 million?
On $1 million, you'd be looking at $40,000 or $50,000 plus GST, possibly split between a buyer's and seller's agent, or agents wanting to double end the deal. So back on this journey, we used to be able to have to call someone to be able to put it up on the World Wide Web. As the information ages have changed, this is one of the few industries that have not. The need for someone to type in information about your home to say it's on the board, which really just means they're going to type it into a database that puts it onto realtor.com, is pretty foreign in the sense that
they're not even doing that. They're actually looking at the listing that already existed when the data was in there years ago, and they're simply annotating it with an extra bedroom or this or that or the other, right? They're not having to put all that data in.
That's exactly. If it's been listed, you can just say copy listing or repeat listing. It doesn't really matter. And so really the big problem in this industry is, as I was mentioning, agents made, $300, then it's $3,000, then it's $30,000. Now it's $50,000 and $60,000. And what is the value that they are bringing to the equation? And I mean, you can argue, $200 of value here or there, but the difference is where do you come up with $50,000 of value to type in some information about a house? And then, the internet puts it out available to the general public. And then the second thing they say, well, I show the house. Well, you tell me you can't unlock your door and have someone come through and show your house? And that's worth $50,000? Or worse yet, the agent calls you as a seller and says, I have a buyer that would like to see your house. They want to come tomorrow at 5 p.m. Then you tell them, no, I need you to come at 6 p.m. They call the other agent, they call their client and go back and forth. Where if I'd like to come see your house, I'd say, hi, Scott, are you available tomorrow at 5 p.m.? Scott's going to say, no, my kids have soccer till 5:30. Do you mind coming at 6:15? I say, no problem. That should work. Seems pretty logical, not that complicated. But they claim that there's this big thing, I schedule the showings and show people your houses. Well, if you're an agent working for a buyer, how do you know you're trying to sell that house? As a seller, they're showing them 10 different houses. So they're standing in your house saying, well, this is nice, but the one next door is way nicer, so I wouldn't buy it anyways. So it really all comes down to transparency and education and value. And I mean, there's rulings right across North America, a big ruling about 6 or 8 months ago from the National Association of Realtors, a similar one happening in Canada because buyers and sellers alike are waking up and saying something here just simply doesn't make sense. And we saw that 20 some years ago. And we sold our company in 2009 and it turned to a full service brokerage. And we launched it again a year ago because it completely disappeared. And it's one of those things, everyone's heard the word disruption, and it's been a catchphrase in multiple industries over the last 4, 5, 8 years. But to us, it is absolutely amazing that real estate hasn't truly been disrupted yet.
I have it. Okay. So let's back up just for a second. So I was just thinking about, there was a book that was a couple of years old. I'll remember the name of it here in a bit. But the ultimate impetus of the chapter was the realtor has no motivation to, so let's pretend the house lists for 100, right? And 105. The seller's agent, well, they have no motivation to get the 105 because they don't make any more money on 100 between 100 and 105, right? It's only a couple of pennies to them. But to the actual homeowner, it's $5,000, right? So you've basically, by going kind of through how you're doing it, you've actually, I don't know, it sounds like you're actually helping the sale along a lot better because now it's aligned. They don't get paid and get sold, and they're not making any more or less money based on the actual sale price. So the actual homeowner seems to maybe be getting more of what they want to begin with.
Absolutely. The book is Freakonomics. So yes, I'm very
Freakonomics, that's what it's called.
very familiar with that chapter. But ultimately, houses sell houses. I won't convince anyone to buy a house that faces west if they want a house that faces east. I won't convince someone to buy a 2-story when they want a bi-level. And I mean, those are substantial changes, but you walk in and you like it or you don't. So you don't need someone to sell your house necessarily. And I mean, the cost of living has gone up everywhere. Who doesn't want an extra $25,000 or $30,000 when they're in the process of moving, renovation, family vacation, pay down student loans? The list goes on. And as I mentioned earlier, it's pretty hard to justify giving away that value. So when a buyer and a seller can look at each other and say, whatever number we arrive at, other than, if maybe some taxes or like minor things, that money is just an exchange between you and I. Not somebody forcing me to buy it, doing some negotiations. Lots of agents say, well, you need me to negotiate for you. Well, all you're doing is making someone else pay more. And is that really what you want? When you have a bottom line, your buyer has a top line. It's either close or it's not. And do you want to force someone to pay more when that doesn't feel right? And more than anything, most people have mortgages on their house. Banks will only finance based on an appraised value. And an appraised value is not what a realtor says is your comparative market evaluation.
So let's talk about ComFree for a second. So what is the new model? I guess you had a vision about this for years ago. So now I'm selling a house and what are my fees? How is your model work?
So you call ComFree. ComFree stands for commission-free real estate. You call us. We have 3 packages. It's $500, $1,000, or $1,200. And what's included is, at a bare minimum, we get you listed on the MLS. So you're on realtor.ca, realtor.com. Everybody in the world, not just North America, knows your home is for sale. Whether you're working with an agent or you're just a buyer, they know your home is for sale. That is the only fee that you pay us. The difference between the packages is simply, did you want signage? Would you like us to link you with the lawyer for assist with the closing? Would you like us to come take VR tours and photos? We offer a 100% money back guarantee. So if you don't sell with us and you'd like to list with another agent, provided that you list and sell for the same price you were listed with us, we will fully refund your one-time fee. And one of the biggest things is when we put you on the MLS, we get your phone number as the homeowner on the MLS. So when somebody checks out your house that's listed on the MLS, they're calling you directly. Do you have a blue roof or do you have a red roof? Can I see it tomorrow? So that's one of the huge benefits. We really try to encourage all of our sellers to have a VR tour. Let's not be tire kickers. We all use technology. Not having a ton of showings on your house isn't a bad thing. Open houses are now just for people to walk through for the fun of it. So have a good look at the house. I'm interested in it. I found it on the MLS. I'm going to call the seller directly. And if I'd like to make an offer, you can call us and we will support buyer or seller through the making of an offer, what needs to happen. And then when the house sells, you do not owe commission to anyone, not to ComFree, not to another agent. Buyers and sellers connect. They negotiate the deal. So what I say is in that $1,000, our middle package, we sell advertising, education, and handholding. We get your house on the MLS or on realtor.com. That's where you want to be. Handholding, we say, give us a call when you have cold feet or when all the realtors in your neighborhood are telling you you've made the worst decision, you're going to give away your house, you have no idea what you're doing. You give us a call and someone in our office says, it's okay. This is how it works. They're feeding you a line. They have a ton of commission on the line. You paid me the $1,000. All I want to do is see you succeed. And then the last part is education. I don't know what it's like in each of your communities, but some of these massive real estate stories, like the huge National Association of Realtors case that had a $418 million settlement, is not making anywhere near the mainstream news that I would imagine it to be. Real estate affects everybody. And it's one of those industries that people just kind of throw their hands up in the air and say, I need a real estate agent, and forget to sometimes educate themselves to say, wait a second, what's going to happen when I list my house for $500,000 and then I go to collect my proceeds and my check's only $450,000? Where's the rest of the money? Nobody walks into your house and says, hey, I'd like to list your house as a real estate agent. And by the way, when I sell it, you're going to pay me $25,000 plus taxes.
No. It's okay. So you're handling the agreement, you're handling the closing, I'm assuming, and title and all that kind of stuff kind of goes through you as well, or how does that work exactly?
We have a law partner, so lawyers. In Canada, it's a little bit different with title, but in Canada, no matter where you're located, you have to have a lawyer that closes your deal. So we have a partner law firm in each one of our jurisdictions that handles everything for them, and they offer the closing fees for $699. So you pay us a flat fee to do the advertising, the hand-holding, the listing. Then you pay the lawyer the $699 to basically, like you're saying, to do the title, discharge the mortgage, register a new mortgage, and off you go. And that's a far cry from anything, whether it be, in our area, it's 7% on the first 100,000, 3.5% on the balance. I know in Ontario and Quebec, you're seeing closer to a flat 3.5% to 4.5% in commissions across the board. And again, it just comes to value. And as very intelligent human beings, as we all are, that are very used to, the first place when we have an inquiry about what we want to do about anything that's happening in our lives is we start by looking on the internet. And there is so much misinformation about the real estate industry. And so Comfrey is really about helping to change that industry and empowering buyers and sellers to say there's nothing complicated. Yes, in the 1900s, you needed to call someone so they could put the thumbtack in the board to say this house is for sale. And maybe in the 70s and 80s, we printed it and hand delivered these magazines or books. But it doesn't work that way when you've got Mr. Google and realtor.ca or realtor.com. You don't need all these foreign parties between the buyer and the seller to make a transaction happen.
Right. It's just, I don't know. I never really, yes, we buy and sell a couple houses, right? But it's the idea that once you reach that like $500,000, it's not the 70s where houses were sold for 60 grand, right? And you were like, okay, well, I guess the $2,000 is going to be what they, it is 50 grand. It's 50 grand in some cases it's kind of a mind blower. Okay. So how did you come up with this? Just entrepreneurial speaking, you were in the biz a bit, right? And you're like, this can't be right. There's got to be a better way, or how did that happen exactly?
Exactly that. There had to be a better way. I was saying, how we got into it is we went to flip our first house. And I know I crawled on my hands and knees to renovate this house. And I was going to have an agent put up a sign and take 10 grand. And that was 20 some years ago. And I was at that exact moment in time is where I said there had to be a better way. There's nothing that hard. And so young at a university, entrepreneurial, did some research and said there absolutely is a better way. The hardest thing about it is everybody has a neighbor, a soccer coach, a cousin, an uncle, a friend, a sister that's a licensed real estate agent. There was just an article that came out of Ontario that there was 20,000 more licensed agents in the province of Ontario than there were transactions that happened in 2023. That's not even the 80-20 rule anymore. That's just crazy. And so what's really hard for us as we set out to change the industry is when I go to tell my story to, as I'm sitting in the hockey stands, as my son's playing hockey, or I run into someone at Costco as I'm getting groceries, they're not always interested in hearing the story, even though it affects them directly. It could be affecting them directly in that they're selling their house in the next 6 months and they're going to pay 50 grand, but they would still trust their retired uncle who's a real estate agent. It's the number of people that are licensed and creating this industry. It's a industry when you think about the MLS and the various boards and the National Association of Realtors and the Canadian Real Estate Association. It's created by licensed agents for licensed agents, and it's long past the idea of protecting consumers. It's if you have something to sell it, buy it, and have someone look after the title exchange or look after the registration and discharge of the mortgage. That's what legal professionals do. But none of them charge anywhere near $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. But that's the challenge for us to disrupt the industry, is the number of people, little Comfrey in our office, my husband and I have been in this business for 20 years, that we have to work against to get that education out to the general consumer is quite crazy.
Yeah, and I part of me wonders if you're going to get bought out because and just disbanded because how dangerous this is. Right? It's almost like that kind of real estate organization. Like, well, we could just buy them, right? And they would just quietly go away.
You know what? Been there, done that.
Right.
So we did this from 2002 to 2009, and we sold. And let's be honest, we merged with somebody that was going to help us go national and international because they thought our for sale by owner model was incredible. The ink did not even finish drying on the documents of our merger and 3-year buyout before they said, well, if we charge commission, we can make more money. I was like, wait a second. So when you say that, yes, everything's for sale for the right price. But we were out of the industry for 10 years after we made the first mistake of selling, that we're now in it. Like we're deeply passionate about actually changing the industry and just getting an offer from, the big players in the industry, whether it be the Remaxes or the Caldwell Bankers. It's not that interesting because I truly want to see a change in the real estate industry. And I believe it's possible. And I believe that as everyday consumers and everything that we're prepared to change in how we do business, we order from Amazon, we use Uber. If you asked the New York taxi drivers 10 years ago that there would be an app that would have someone right at the exact corner that you wanted to be picked up at, they would say, no, there isn't. And not possible.
It's okay. So how are you growing this? Like, how long have you been with, how long has this organization, this one organization been around?
We've only been back in business for about 8 months. So in the last 8 months, I think our office is already the highest producing office in the province of Alberta. And we do it at $1,000 a time. And I don't have to tell you that ours is a volume game. Many agents, they sell 2 or 3 houses a year. They've made a pretty good living. We sell 2 or 3 houses a day. And in our first go around through the housing boom in 06 and 07, we were listing in excess of 1,000, 1,200. Our biggest month was we listed 1,273 houses out of a 2,500 square foot office in the city of Edmonton. It is possible and it's doable. We're only 8 months old, but already seeing a big shift and just people slowly saying, But for us, it's getting, don't listen to me. Look at what's happening with some of these national rulings. Ask yourself if you have $50,000 to spare, and then maybe give me, Comfrey, an ear for me to tell you about how real estate really works. And I'd say, you know what, $1,000 doesn't make that world of a difference to me necessarily. Like, of course it does, multiplied by many. But I guarantee you the $50,000, if you give me your ear, that I will save you in commission, or, maybe you have 2 or 3 transactions over the next 20 to 30 years. You might want to learn about how real estate commissions actually work.
And we're going to leave it at that. It was awesome meeting you. I dig what you're doing. I suspect we're going to be hearing a lot more from you. In that, I think as you get more known, you start screaming from the highest mountaintops that there's a better way. I think you're going to crush it.
I appreciate that, Scott.
It was lovely meeting you. Have a lovely day.
Awesome. Take care.